Hi and welcome to Any Weather Builds 101. This video should have been the first video I made for Any Weather Builds, but this is covering how you can make a build for any weather, any season, any episode. Does not matter what is going on in the given act, episode, or whatever have you, if you build properly. Now, how I build is on my Warlock, my Hunter, and every other class because of how I like doing things. Every single thing flows, and I'm going to get into it and how you can adapt this because Destiny 2 build crafting is not as straightforward as you might think. There's no meta, there's not a whole lot of different things. It's how you personally want to play with it. Like, for an example, off the base or off rip, you can use all sorts of different exotics. Each exotic has so many different things that they can be used for and how they can actually function. Because, for an example, okay, this build used the Cerberus plus one before I got this. I am still working on getting this fully maxed out and fully upgraded. I am on the second catalyst, relatively speaking. There is multiple catalysts to make it a lot better, unlocking more and more things you can change about the overall gun. I am slowly making it exactly how I want to, but it is slowly and over time because of how this exotic works. Now, with that, I had the Cerberus plus one for my primary before this, which allowed me to have a lot of different pros and cons, gives and takes, which is the entire core concept of this build system overall. Because, okay, this game, because I'm trying my best to figure out exactly how to work this because of how functional and how specific each little thing is. This game has multiple different element types. Each element has different things they can do. Fire sprites are solar, ionic traces are arc, void breaches are void, stasis shards are stasis, tangles are strand. Each one of those are a different element keyword and a different way to use different elements, including with the different weapons. Like if you have a strand weapon, which is in the kinetic slot, you're able to use that to spawn tangles and all sorts of things. If you have a stasis weapon in the kinetic slot, you're able to spawn stasis shards, all sorts of different things because of how that functions. Now, with that, because of prismatic, and I'm trying my best to go from this, please bear with me, I'm going to try my best to make this work a lot better because of how complex Destiny 2 buildcrafting actually is. Because of how light and dark work and kinetic with the overall prismatic subclass, Cerberus plus one was a good pick because of how kinetic generates both, and the amount of ad clear with the new Cerberus plus one catalyst rework and everything, or new air quotations, how all that worked, especially with, for an example, anti-barrier rounds, because anti-barrier allows you to shoot through any shield, it allowed me to just shred everything. And guaranteeing, and the reason why that's really important, guaranteeing devour procs, guaranteeing everything that this build is designed to do. And this is just a single flow. With what I'm talking about with elementals and just kinetic and all these different things, keep that in mind for how you, specifically the viewer, can change core concepts and manipulate each individual thing. Sure, with prismatic, it has the specific uh, this and this, but even in non-prismatic subclasses like void and all these different things, there is pros and cons to having different elements. Like for an example, uh, Tear, perfect example. This auto rifle, personally, I would not be using Tear on because it is a projectile weapon because it's a support frame. But and support frames are incredibly handy, especially the strand support frames, because unraveling itself is just gorgeous. And before I get to this stasis, or not stasis, strand subclass, because I will show off what each one of those means, even the severed, because severed is a keyword even though it's not blue. When you see a blue word, it's typically a keyword that means something specific. Now, with unraveling and severed, what both of them do, there we go, that causes unraveled, and my melee does severed. Read Unravel because of what that actually does, because that is absolutely potent. It's basically what I like to call angry bees. You apply it to one boy and every boy gets it eventually, because it is a non-stop reaction where you only have to apply it once. You don't have to toss other abilities or anything if you do it properly. Like if you apply it on the bigger health boy, damage him a good bit, make the bees very angry, they'll start spreading out to the lower health boys and start killing them, and so on and so forth. And an angry bee will make angry bees angrier. Best way to describe it. I'm not good at words. So hopefully that made sense. Severed does basically the exact opposite. Instead of doing high damage, it makes it where they themselves can't do high damage, and also add clear because of how that functions, but both of those being applied with one weapon. Sure, this weapon is projectile, which doesn't really help out a whole lot when you're trying to do damage, but it is possible to be rolled on any other strand weapon specifically. And how you can tell what element it is with strand. And with that out of the way with weapons and how specific elements are very handy, the specific build that I'm wanting to show off is this build here because of how it flows. And if you notice, the outfits themselves are fucking gorgeous in this game, and that itself is build crafting because to an extent the build look and the build flow are kind of synonymous to allow you to have some good overall, like, chew the fat on it, basically, to allow you to have some good things to put your teeth in, and I don't know how else to describe it, where you're able to manipulate and like hold the Play-Doh a whole lot better, if that makes any sense. Um, but this build got me thinking about how to show off any weather builds or builds themselves in a very good light. And speaking of any weather builds, the reason why I talked about any weather, any season, is because there are so many different mods and different things that are universal. Like this, for an example, is universal. You don't have to worry about a specific thing. And most of these are universal or can be used on all sorts of different builds, and that's what I like equipping because of how they overall function. Even this is actually very handy because you're able to get bolt charge even on not a arc or prismatic subclass if you're playing with somebody else, which is why I have that, because there's ways to get bolt charge. Like for an example, every single class on arc is able to give their allies bolt charge pretty easily. Um, I think the warlocks can. I know hunters and titans can. I don't know if the warlocks can actually. But besides the point, if you're playing with teammates, you're able to do a whole lot of cool things, and that is why I make my builds how I do. It's designed around team coordination to an extent, if not completely. And all of these you should kind of get no matter what because these all allow you to do crazy things. Like for an example, anti-barrier rounds, like I said earlier, allow you to shoot through any shield. Be it the big shield Taken, the big shield Cabal, the spinny shield thing from the Vex, even my favorite thing you can shoot through, the chickens, if you know the chickens, or the wyverns, technically. I call them the fucking chicken, because when you see a fucking chicken, you should dive out the way, because they are big, gonna fucking squish you. And I say fucking a lot because it's a good flavor, and if you watch my videos, I am not PG. I do not care about being PG, because this is who I am. Now, with that, you can kill the chickens by shooting their big feathers, basically, because I described them as chicken, the best way to think about it. The feathers, because of the wings. Those wings, you can actually shoot through and damage the chicken with anti-barrier, unless, or unlike if you're not using anti-barrier, it's immune with everything even being able to shoot through the feathers that are the enemy. So, yeah, there's pros and cons with everything. Even this, because that allows you to, like, for an example, trying to think of a good example. Uh, all decks. All decks can teleport slightly, and for an example, the Scorn, most enemies can actually like do a weird teleport trail thing. More going intangible and going somewhere else. Because you can see the trail, you just can't shoot them. In that, you can actually stop them from doing that as much if you make them stunned or overloaded, because it makes them where their abilities can't work. And in PvP, that is incredibly handy. Sure, not LMG overload, but say for an example, you have a primary weapon that's able to apply overload in a very easy way. You're able to say, for an example, make it where their fast charging super doesn't charge if you're prioritizing the right target with the overload, because it's able to completely negate their ability charges even in PvP. And anti-barrier rounds is able to negate the shields from Titans pretty easily. It does not like one to one, like one shot boom, but a hell of a lot more damage you're applying. Unstop isn't that good, but it does help you out overall, here and there. Because Unstop is basically just bonus damage, bonus stagger, which can overall help you in a fight, but not in like puzzle piece, tool type situations like these two. Which is why it's not as good. And the last thing I'm talking about, artifact. There are some times where people think meta is a thing. Meta isn't a thing in this game completely and utterly, even with particle reconstruction. Particle reconstruction, and the reason why this is not meta is because it requires fusion rifles of the linear or non-linear version, which itself is a pro and con. Itself is a good thing and a bad thing because you're able to do more damage. There's ways to work with it. Like there's a primary ammo fusion rifle that you can get if you want to. So there is pros and cons there, but because it requires those two, and typical fusion rifles are special ammo, and all linear fusion rifles are either special or heavy, and the special ones cost your exotic slots, so it's not really that good. So there's wiggle room there, which is why I don't actually have that equipped and why that is not meta. It gives you a whole lot more damage, gives you a whole lot more bonuses, but I'd rather use other things to allow me to have more flow, more control over the battlefield, and more overall what I want to do. Because that gives you basic. Okay, the pro there, I'm just talking about the cons, but the pro there is you're able to focus one motherfucker, one big bitch down as fast as you can pull that trigger, basically. As fast as you can shoot, that ramps up to allow you to just annihilate something big, which is the pro there and why it's good on fusion rifles and linear fusion rifles, because both of them do a metric buck ton of damage per shot. So, that is good, just not meta. Like a lot of things in this game, like Cerberus plus one versus Barrow Dyad, there is pros and cons. Like for an example, Cerberus plus one going full rep is actually around the same amount of damage, especially with like Radiant, different things like that, and pros and cons like across the board, around the same amount of damage itself. Like both of them are around the same damage, and there is pros and cons with the two. Like Cerberus plus one, you're able to keep the high damage consistently. Where this, you have to do a little bit of a mini game to make it work, which I am going to show off the mini game. It's actually really fun, but there is pros and cons. And Cerberus plus one, if you don't know what it is, it's actually a really, really gorgeous weapon that is really fun and my personal favorite weapon in the game because Cerberus is three-headed dog, plus one, four barrels. It's really fun. Also, the overall concept of it, like how does it shoot? Like little things like that makes this gun just absolutely fucking funny in my personal opinion, and there's ways to make it look even better if you want your gun to look more like a gun and not junk, to say the least. Which, oh, that looks even cooler. I just realized what that is. Okay, see how the barrels are lined up, where there's one on top, one in the middle, and two on the bottom. Same barrel layout. It's still Cerberus, just looks more like a gun. That's awesome. I thought it had one barrel, which is why I'm saying that. I thought it had one barrel, which is weird because it has to have four barrels to shoot four bullets. It still actually has the four barrels. It just looks more like a bullet storm weapon than anything else. It's really pretty. Um, and the reason why I cover that is because personal flow, personal look all applies to this game. Because this flows together with a good, like, I'm trying to go with like an elven, like, MMO, like World of Warcraft elven type of character, where I'm constantly applying Devour, getting Devour, and all sorts of different things because of how this functions. And with this build, the biggest thing about this build and build crafting in general, exotics have multiple different key facts. Like my personal favorite example of this is Insurmountable Skullfort for how much you can actually do. Because I kid you not, an ignition build with Insurmountable Skullfort abusing the second half. Because the second half itself, say for an example, and there is a lot of key things, and I'm just trying my best to show off good overall examples of how this game functions. Because what I just said, Insurmountable Skullfort and even Mask of the Quiet One, those are only Titan exotics, and there's so many other exotics on Titan, but there's also completely different exotics and completely different playstyles on Hunter and Warlock specifically. And not specifically, exclusively, because each one has specific ways they can flow, different ways they can work. Like for an example, Devour is not something you can get on Prismatic Titan at all. You cannot proc Devour no matter how hard you try because there is no way to proc Devour on Prismatic Titan. But there is a way to proc it on Warlock. Not on Hunter either, but on Warlock. This basically allows you to have a new aspect, which is why this helmet is absolutely fucking gorgeous. The only drawback is you have to have a Void Super, which in and of itself isn't really a drawback. It's just how you really want to play and what you really want to use. For this build, that's perfect because of the amount of damage, the weaken application, everything about how that functions. So, with what I was saying about Insurmountable, if you have this, that's all you need to be able to get that melee region to allow you to have that overall flow. There's so many different examples across the board where an exotic actually has two pieces that you can use independently, which is why these are a thing. because technically it takes the best part, air quotations, of each thing, and this is one role of this Titan mark. There's Warlock and Hunter marks, or class items technically, that have the same general concept of being able to have different pieces of different exotics that have different roles to allow you to have different things. Excuse me. And I know that that was pretty redundant, but it itself changes everything about the core gameplay. Like, for an example, that allows you to have guaranteed 3 stasis walls, basically, where you could have this, you could have this, which gives you double up on those, and an extra ability to cast stasis crystals, which, say, for an example, you're wanting to have an ignition build, you could go that which is the grenade, the wall, and then you can go this with Monty to allow you to just have 3 ignitions back to back to back with the ability to have constant ability regen and just all sorts of shit. Like, there's so much flow and creativity in this game if you really take it apart piece by piece. It's like a good burger, for an example. It is not the topping. It is not the bread. It is not the meat. It is not whatever else is on the burger. It is the burger itself that is good. If one key ingredient is the key ingredient in the burger, it itself isn't really a good burger. You should be able to take out, like, at least 50% of the burger and still have a good burger if itself is a good burger. Just, I had burger on the mind because I am actually, or not I am, I had a good burger literally like not even an hour ago from Buffalo. I don't think it was Buffalo Wild Wings, but Buffalo, which I got for the first time a rare burger, and oh, it made my carnivore just smile in the best way to put it. Because if you like meat, have a good, like, I had a Swiss cheeseburger, which all of it always flows together very well. Have that as a medium or a rare technically, and oh, it melted. Um, that's why I had burger on my mind. And I'm sorry if that got you hungry. Get something on your stomach, even if it's like a bag of popcorn. It'll help you out. But with all that said, I'm going to show off the flow and how different exotics, and I'm actually going to show off Cerberus and Barodiad to show off the specifics. And after this, I'm actually going to show off a good bit of gameplay in a Gambit match. And I actually really, really like Gambit. Gambit is something in Destiny 2 that really, desperately needs an overhaul. Since, if you didn't know, Gambit has not had a true overhaul. They had, like, tweaking to the overall formula, how heavy ammo spawns, and different things like that, but not a true overhaul in so long. I don't think it's ever actually had, or it has technically, because Gambit Prime, different things like that, but it hasn't had a true overhaul in a really, really long time. But Gambit itself is basically Destiny 2. If you really think about it, with the amount of PvP that you need to do, the amount of PvE you need to do, it's basically Destiny in a nutshell, which should be the new pinnacle mode since Trials is kind of becoming less of a pinnacle. And if you really play Gambit and see how it functions, it's really, really good. This build is actually made for Gambit, which is something kind of cool. And it's made for Gambit because of the amount of flow, the amount of ad clear, everything this allows me to do. I am going to see about making this my new Gambit build, and this is my ignition build that I talked about earlier, but yeah, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. And the glaive, the reason why I have the glaive is because the glaive melee actually does give me ability energy for the arc melee, just not as much. Like, every 3 equivalates, or is equivalent to 1 punch, basically. 1 knockout punch, basically. But you're able to stab a whole lot more, so there's gives and takes, like everything in this game with build crafting. Um, the best place to show off what I mean about amazing ad clear, that's not actually there. I thought that would be a good way to go there. There's a whole lot of different places you can go. Each place has some dungeons, there's some raids, there's all sorts of different things you can go to, but I'm going here specifically, and I'm saying that because I don't know how much you actually know about this game. But this is a specific dungeon that has a metric fuck ton of boys spawning constantly, because the mechanic here is pick up thing, or you kill boys, they drop object. You pick up object to dunk in crystal, but you need the boys to get the object. You cannot do one or the other, and you need a metric fuck ton of the object, so they spawn indefinitely. And the object itself does deteriorate over time, so there's a reason for there to be infinite boys. I did not grab Cerberus, or Serby. There's my Cerberus. I thought it was there. Now I am going to start off, and look down below, okay, down in the bottom left where you see panic response. That is this exotic's entire thing. You're going to see how it changes, and the gold icon there shows off exactly what it means, because that is blue. That means it's not gold. Now, below that, you have the super bar that is already filling up. Below that, that weird space in between where you see the, cool, that should hopefully allow you to see a little better. Trying to figure out the exact, there you go, that actually works perfectly. The extra bars below the super bar. Those two bars are half and half. That is the prismatic super, basically, because it's basically a super. Think of it like that, and you'll go very far, because it allows your weapons to do so much more damage. And, for an example, my ignition build allows me to have ignition after ignition after ignition without using the strand melee. So, there's pros and cons to using that, basically like a super. But it fills on doing either darkness damage, which strand is a darkness weapon, or darkness element, or light damage. And that is the object that spawn. You pick them up. If you get 10 of them, you get all your abilities refilled. This is the base combat loop of how this gun functions. It allows me to have guaranteed ad clear with the ability to build up panic response very easily. And if you don't know, it's on damage to allow you to get more health, or allow you to get more panic response. And the beautiful thing about this gun is doing damage, of course, takes ammo, but when you're not shooting, it actually does not take ammo and it actually refreshes your gun, which is very handy. But the beautiful thing about this gun that I don't know if anyone's actually realized, you always can reload it. Even if it goes to max ammo, technically, if it stops reloading itself, it will not go max. And, if you did not notice right there, it actually reloads faster depending on how empty the gun is, which allows you to have perfect flow, perfect control over how this gun functions, because you can always do exactly what you want to do, which is why this gun is the most exotic gun in this game, because of the amount of flow, the amount of synergy, the amount of just overall use cases for this gun. I do not want to die. If the burdens of riches, burdened by riches, goes away, you die, so don't let it go away. And this game is free. What I am doing right now isn't, and everything I'm covering isn't free, but what I am covering does actually apply to a lot of free things. Now, going to serving, and see how much energy I have, or I should actually just use the prismatic, or actually, never mind, 1 second. Reset. Ho! With Serby, because it's a shotgun that is, I pressed that twice, because it's a shotgun that uses primary ammo, basically, you're able to manipulate the surroundings very easily and have good control in air and out of air to allow you to have constant, continuous damage where you want it, how you want it, and everything like that. With the ability to say, you, cease your existence. Practically. The only downside is you actually have to get a kill, press a button, and go from there. When I smack the gun, it's me saying gun, rev up, basically. Think of it like that. And if you notice, each bar, the light and dark bar, is charging up, which is why I talk about the pros and cons. And everything about how this gun functions is different ways that each exotic works. And every exotic works differently. Every weapon works differently. Every build works differently to an extent. This is just a cool way to see how everything functions, because this is the only full auto primary shotgun. There's other full auto shotguns, just none of them are really primary, which is why this is a really, really, really good exotic. And all the little things about how this overall functions. Now, okay, I don't know if there's anything else I could really cover, because this is meant to be like broad strokes, which is why I'm trying my best to make this as broad strokes as I can, but, you know, I could talk about overall weapons. Okay. When you're wanting to make a build, you're wanting to figure out the weapons that flow properly. Like, for an example, when I had this, I had a shotgun as my energy, or as my special weapon. And you should always have a primary special. You should never go double special, but you can, in cases, go double primary if you want to. Because special weapons have limited ammo, primary weapons have infinite ammo, but there's pros and cons here, because primary weapons always do less damage than special weapons, and here and there. There's pros and cons here and there. But when I have this equipped, because of the overall range problems that this has, I actually use this to allow me to have a good, consistent long-range weapon that actually does around the middle ground of the rockets and the full auto SMG of this SMG. Where it is a good, just I dumped all the rockets, I swap to this and burn you down kind of weapon, which is why I equipped that instead of the shotgun. Because you always have to figure out the right flow to allow you to use each weapon when you need to. Because and with all this, do not try and make a build that can do everything. This is not everything in the game. There are so many different ways to make a build. Like for an example, I have a complete support build that makes it where I can guarantee if these okay, guarantee two people survived or will be basically immortal with, I believe, a 40% damage increase if the healing auto stacks with the exotic itself. I don't know if they do stack, but if they do, that is a 40% damage increase instantly, infinitely, if I'm able to make it work. And that means they have to work with me. I have to have that range and all these different things that all work together to allow me to have it all function. But if it is, holy shit, two people are immortal. Complete and utterly. I'm not technically, but they are immortal. Because each time I'm giving the damage boost, I'm also healing them and all sorts of crazy things. It allows constant flow. And I'm not going to get into that really, but it is incredibly good. And technically, that is actually free. I don't know if the Lumen is free, actually. I don't think the Lumen is free. I think that came out in Forsaken. Never mind. Or after Forsaken, actually. Um, but always try and figure out the right special and the right heavy sorry about that, the right heavy, and different things like that for how you actually want it to flow with your exotic and your subclass of choice. Each piece flows together and makes a perfect build for any weather. Now, with that, and you can also use whatever you want, it's completely up to personal taste. This game is absolutely gorgeous for personal taste. Like, for an example, the amount of weapons and all sorts of shit that all have different ways they work. Like, for an example, pulse rifles are 3-round burst auto rifles. Think of it like that, and scar rifles are semi-automatic auto rifles, where they have brrr, bra, 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 ba, ba, ba. Basically, onomatopoeia helps you visualize it better, but visualize it a little bit better, but each one gives you different damage profiles. Like scout rifles are good plinking high damage on the precision. Like you're able to dink, 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 dink constantly on that headshot. Pulse rifles are a good in between of scouts and autos, but with less damage than scouts typically, and pros and cons here and there because you're able to get damage rolls, all sorts of other things. And this is another thing that I don't really want to get into. I might have like a gun 101 or something like that because guns themselves, there's a reason why there's such thing as meta. There's such thing as god rules, there's such thing as a whole lot of things in this game. People basically play Call of Duty when they play this game because each role has so many different things about how, or each gun has so many different roles that fundamentally change the core concepts of how the gun functions. Which allows you to have technically per build and per person god rolls. Because some god rolls I actually think are kind of shit for most builds I'd use. And I'm not using hyperbole. It's sometimes the god rolls that people say are god rolls are actually kind of shit, even to the barrel and magazine. Because if you don't know, barrel and magazines are just personality traits basically for how they overall function, how they actually work. Um, and everything about guns changes completely and utterly. Even the frame matters. Like, for an example, precision versus high impact has different base stats that matter, and each one actually has different recoil patterns, all sorts of different things. They are completely different entities, including the different elements, because each element matters, each individual little piece matters. And the best part, the last thing I'm talking about guns in this entire video, because I'm saying all this because this is basically gun 101. It's completely a personal preference. Each gun actually has different. Okay. Each frame prioritizes different stats. Like, for an example, if you have a lightweight weapon, aggressive. Oh, that's not good. I need to go to SMG. I know there's a lightweight. There we go. Lightweight SMG. Because of what lightweight allows you to do, and I'm sorry if you heard me snort basically there. I had a lot of mucus in my mouth. Or not mouth, nose. But because of what lightweight does, you don't actually need that much handling because it basically gives you handling. which is pros and cons there, which is why you don't actually need high handling magazines, high handling barrels. They're really just pros and cons on how you really want to use it. And even the coolest thing about this, when you go from SMG to auto, some stats matter way more than others. Like, for an example, auto rifles. I personally don't really go for more stability than anything else because, or more stability, or how about this? I personally do not go for a lot of stability because stability is not really something I need with an auto rifle. It is a really good, accurate ding, 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 not that fiery, but good, accurate, can keep it on target pretty easily. But for an example, SMGs, you kinda need high stability because they are fucking bullet hoses. They are. This magazine has some ammo. Nope. Depending on what you're using, because it's just dump the magazine. And there's ways to make your gun even fire faster with things like cascade point and different things like that. There's so many cool functional pieces about how this game works that people, most people in the community, don't actually think about or cover because they completely ignore it because they talk about God rules. God rules don't exist because of everything I just covered. Now, what I am going to show you is the first build or the first game in Gambit I used with this build. This build is made for Gambit, like I said, just don't know if it works exactly. You're going to see why it works perfectly. Just I don't know if it's perfect for how Gambit is played. And before I get into Gambit, what you're going to see is very lackluster, basically. The gameplay itself is good. Like, I do show off a whole lot of gameplay, but the game mode itself is pretty lackluster because there's always one person that can't do anything. Typically, it's me because I just try and have fun. But this match actually is pretty good. I actually already played it, which is what I'm talking about. But Gambit itself needs more enemies, needs bigger maps, needs so many different things, a complete overhaul to make it better. Because as it stands, the only matches where everyone can really do something is the ones where Drifter Dude says, ooh, blank enemy on the field, which means they are higher tier. Instead of typical red bars, there's more golden and all these different things for how ooh means. Like, if every single engagement was on that same tier and then he could still say ooh and make them all basically bosses, that would work in of itself because there needs to be more to do. And that is a thing that has happened across the board with this game because if you didn't know, first, these did not exist for a while. Shit. Cool, I thought I changed. I did, that's the one out. Shit. Um, if you did not know, those did not exist for a while, and the entire subclass system with the aspects and fragments did not exist. The first subclass that actually introduced that was Stasis a long time ago. And over time, each subclass got the same treatment, which is something that you keep in mind for how this game functions. It is never, ever going to get stale unless the developers themselves stop developing it. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. People have talked about a Destiny 3. People have talked about a Payback and or Operation Payback where they're making Destiny 3 and different things like that. I don't think they're making a Destiny 3 because if say for example, they do make a Destiny 3, a completely separate game, everyone that has spent so much time on this game, so much investment in time and effort, will lose everything. They will not have any of these exotics. They will not have anything on their character except for the basic stuff if they start playing that one. And that is why no game across the board needs a number two. They do not need a number three. And with everything I just said, they don't need a number two, they don't need a number three, they do not need a continuation. All they need is to be able to continuously be updated, like Destiny 2. Because there's so many different things about this game that I could go into in complete detail. Just stopping this conversation with this game is the reason why I'm wanting to be a game designer. Just flat out, this game is fucking gorgeous. And I would love to work with Bungie. And I think if I was going to make an exotic, this is the exotic I was going to make, to be completely honest, because this is the most exotic that could ever exotic. Now, with all that said, I hope you enjoyed and understood. And if you didn't understand, please leave a comment down below. I will get back to you. I always comment on every single yeah, no, reply to every single comment I ever get because you took the time out of your day to reply. So I'm gonna reply. Even if it's something like dookie fart, I'm still gonna say why. But That's the only thing I can think of. Dookie part. But um, I will always try my best to help you under. I did not turn off my air conditioner. Book. I am sorry about that. I'm not redoing any of this because that was very good. I make everything on PS5, so I can't actually like edit that well and like put my voice into it. Like there's so many different pros and cons. Whenever I get the ability to have the cord or connector between my PS5 and my PC, that is what I'm gonna do from that point on. Is edit on my PC, record gameplay on my console because I'm always going to be a console gamer. I just personally prefer it. I don't like the finger twister, for lack of a better word, that PC is. Now, with all that said, shown and done, I hope you all enjoyed, I hope you all understood, and I hope that this gameplay shows everything off that I wanted it to. Catch you in the next editing armor here. Now, I forgot to say one very important thing about build crafting. The build crafting has major parts and less major parts, and some less major parts are really important, like the mods. I did not cover the mod system, that is completely up to personal preference, but each armor piece has unique mod systems, or unique mods, that all flow together. The mods themselves for armor should get changed here and there should be new things, like I would love the ability to like have a reason to have more armor charge than less armor charge in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how it would work, but armor charge is a big build crafting thing and all sorts of different things. Like, this game has a lot of different flowing parts that I tried my best to cover in this video. Look up any other build video and it will cover mods. Like for an example, I really like watching Astacross because he does cover cool concepts and he does show off good ways to manipulate a build. But nowhere near the same way. He thinks one weapon, one thing is just better, or better. The reason why I scrolled over his name and went, or her name and went into it, is because of Zavala's weird bald head. It's funny. I love describing myself as Titan-bodied and souled with a warlock brain because I am very, very intelligent. Just I do sometimes go dirk-a-dur with some very, very funny jokes. Like I am so corny because I just like making myself smile. I hope you all enjoy the video, and I'll catch you on the next one. This is a good example of the mod system itself because each piece, your chest, your arms, your mark, each one has specific mods. These are just the ghost mods that apply to specific things. Like the first mod I put on was for the newest mode called the Nether. So there is pros and cons here and there, and you can do some cool things here and there. And I am building this for Nether exploration, and I should actually put that on for the Nether exploration because I need to do that for the Barodiad catalyst stuff.
Ooh! Shadow Legion on the field. Hey, you're gonna love
I
this.
genuinely enjoy that song so much, which is why I have that emote. And I actually dance like that. More footwork than arm work, but I am just a big white boy, so.
Transmat is go. Drop those targets, take the moats, and bank them. Hostiles inbound at the beach. Take and run popping up on the enemy side. Good. Incoming wave at the ruins.
This is where it looks like I'm going Titan Brain. I actually was shooting it to make it look at me so my friend can kill it.
Oh, you dropped a large blocker on the enemy. That'll take them a while to shoot. Your allies down, but they secured 2 kills. Decent. High-value targets on the
Typically, the high value target spawns away from where you are currently, like where the enemies are spawning currently. So I ran away to try and find it, even though it's right behind me.
Yeah. High-value target eliminated. Hostiles inbound at the beach. Small blocker to the other side. Small blocker outbound. Portal's ready. Go say hello. Invader on the field. Careful. Enemy invader is down. You can breathe now. You're bleeding moats, brother! Whack the blockers! Allies headed to the other side. Incoming wave at the ruins. Prime Evil's up. Kill it to win. Your invader's back with 3 kills. Yeah. Invader on the field. Careful. Envoy's dead. Kill the Prime Evil. Your enemy called up a Prime Evil. Finish this before they do. Enemy invader down. Hey, you can't blame them for trying. Allies invaded the other side. The lead's yours. Your invaders defeated. Bringing them back. Envoys in the dirt. Now kill the big guys. Invader on the field. Careful. Yeah. Hey, you didn't start that fight. You finished it. Allies headed to the other side. Envoys terminated. Now, bring the house down. Yes, sir, that's what I call hunting. Hey, relax. You're making this look a little too easy. Keep it up.